Hi everyone, and welcome to this talk at Atlassian team. My name is Emilia and I'm a learning experience lead at Mural, and today we're here to talk about how you can plan a virtual retreat that your team actually wants to attend. So at Mural, we usually do our annual retreat once a year when we get together in person, but unfortunately, when the pandemic started, we weren't able to do so. But thanks to our head of culture and collaboration at Mural, Laïla von Alvensleben, we were able to run a super fun virtual team retreat that you can do too. So today we're going to share some tips and tricks and behind the story so that you can plan and run your own event next. Hi Laïla, how are you today?
Hi Emilia, good, and excited to share more about our annual retreats. But before talking about the retreats that we did, I want to share what inspired me to do those retreats. And Emilia, you were actually part of that as well. What actually inspired us to create very, very interactive virtual retreats was my birthday event. So I had my birthday at the very beginning of the first lockdown and decided to create a house party where I could invite everybody in Zoom, but then also give people the option to go into different Zoom rooms where there were different atmospheres and different activities. So what you're looking at here is just a screenshot of a mural, which I will show you in a moment. And in this mural, I literally just Googled house plan. I found an image, I put it here, and the sticky notes that you see in each room in this house were actually linked to different Zoom rooms that we had set up in advance, and Emilia was also helping me. And the reason I had different Zoom rooms was also to create this kind of big event, or almost like a music festival atmosphere, where you could decide which activity to go to in your own time. So you weren't forced to stay in one place. You could literally just move around. And I had people joining from all over the world. So I'm based in Switzerland, Emilia, you're based in Sweden, but I had invited people in the US or in Kenya, Argentina to join us. And that's why you see all the different time zones up there. So they could decide, to join the party at any time and then decide which activity they would go to, such as like a DJ session or poetry reading, or just hang out in the kitchen as you normally would do at a party. And these were my friends who had agreed to host the different activities. Of course, I couldn't host all of them. So we had people who were doing tarot reading and live drawing and like fitness classes. So it was a really fun event, and to help people get into the mood of this birthday party, I gave it a theme, which was Co-Bling 35. I was turning 35 and I really like shiny bling bling kind of costumes. So I did a mood board on the left. That's what you're seeing here, is this mood board of what could inspire people to, how they could dress up. And then what you see on the right is a screenshot from Zoom of how people actually interpreted that mood board and decided to show up in their shiny selves. So to do this virtual birthday party, I used Mural a lot, and both myself and Emilia, we work at Mural. We use Mural on a day-to-day basis, and we can use Mural for so many different team activities and brainstorming and presentations and a lot more. But I had never thought that I would actually use it for my birthday. So there you go. And as Emilia mentioned before, we are a global team and we've been working remotely by default. So we've been saying that we're a remote first company, even pre-pandemic times. We're spread around many different countries and continents. And of course, when the pandemic hit, it was hard to meet in person. But before that, we used to do annual retreats. And Emilia, you've been part of those. This was the last one we did.
Yeah, Mural is actually from Argentina initially. So we usually got together in Argentina once a year. And as everyone knows, we have amazing beaches and weather in Argentina, especially towards the end of the year. So yeah, there was high expectations on the virtual retreats. How would we kind of come up with a way to do them that would live up to the type of energy and excitement we used to have for the in-person ones we used to be able to run? But yeah, we think we did a pretty good job. We had like escape rooms and beaches and things like that, even on Zoom. So yeah, let's go into those.
So I am going to show a few actual murals of what we did, but if you are interested in looking at the 2 virtual retreats that we're going to talk about today, you can follow these links. One of them is called the Maze, actually called the Renaissance Retreat, but that will take you to a video on YouTube where you can see what that virtual retreat looked like. And it was with around 450 employees. And the other virtual retreat was a world tour. We'll walk you through that as well. And if you go to that link, it will take you to a blog post on our website. So let's head right in. Let's start with the first virtual retreat that we did, Emilia. So in this mural, oh, there you are. I see some people here.
Yes, here I am.
So this was a 3-hour retreat. So as I said before, we are a global team. We're spread around the world. It's hard to overlap the whole day. So we just found these 3 hours where we all overlapped. And the reason we picked a world tour as a theme was because we couldn't travel at the time. We were all under lockdown. So we thought it would be fun to make travel possible in a different way, in a virtual way. And the reason we did the retreat was also to announce our Series B round of funding. So actually, people hadn't heard about the funding yet because we're going to announce it here, but the clue was already there in the gate number. It was gate B 118. So Series B, we had $118 million. That was a little clue for the people who were aware of the funding. And this was the time that was started. So we shared this mural ahead of time so people could have all the information about the flight, about the virtual flight. We gave them information on where they could get in touch with us on Slack. So Slack is the instant messaging tool we use internally. And these were we had many people helping us. We call them the air crew and the ground crew. So these essentially were volunteers at Mural, so employees at Mural who were helping out. And the idea was to share a visual of the itinerary that we were going to be on together. And we would take this airplane icon and during the 3-hour journey, if people would look back at this mural, you would see that the plane had changed direction. We also went on a rocket ship at one point, which is Emilia's moving around. And before the event, we gave people a few links. We said, where there's some Zoom backgrounds that you need to download, there's passport you need to fill in. We're going to show that in a second. And you've also received by mail a few gifts. So I'm just going to zoom into that a little bit. We sent out a few props for this journey that we sent via Amazon. And we said, you could open them, but just have them ready by your desk or wherever you're working at during the event, because these were things that we were going to use to bring something physical and tangible to this very virtual experience, and know that, whenever you were going to use that sunscreen, you were also going to activate your five senses of smell and seeing and feeling, and you were going to share that experience with other people. And so as we moved on the itinerary, we also had another element here that we were moving around to show people where we were. And we always had a section of the mural that showed what was going to happen here. So what time was it starting? How long was it going to be? What did they need in terms of the props that we had sent them, and who was going to speak? And because we had sent Zoom backgrounds as well, so everybody, you have to imagine we had over 200 people in Zoom, and they all had downloaded the same background, which is this picture you can see here. So when you have everybody with this background, it seemed like we were all in the same place. And then when we boarded the plane, we made announcements. We told people, okay, get on the plane, it's ready for boarding. And then everybody had this Zoom background of a flight seat. So it really looked like we had 200 people in an airplane. And then myself as a pilot and the crew team, they had a different background, looking like, they were in the middle aisle of the airplane. So Emilia, I don't know what you remember about this activity or this whole retreat, but
yeah. No, we had gotten the whole days blocked on our calendars before the retreat. So getting this flight itinerary and the whole plan for the trip was almost like you were getting ready to actually leave, because you had the whole day off. You had nothing on your schedule besides these things, so you could participate fully. And obviously with all the props, it was almost like preparing your little kind of travel bag with all the stuff you had to bring with you. Like there were even some snacks and things like that. So it was like kind of like when you go to the cinema, you get kind of immersed in the experience. And I thought they did a really good job of bringing that out here.
And you also had to fill out a passport like everybody else. So we sent out a template, a mural template to all the participants. And there was an activity. It was actually like an icebreaker where you were in these mountains, and to kind of keep warm, the idea was that you had to huddle in your breakout room, stay warm, and fill out a passport. So essentially what you had here were these stamps that Emilia is copy pasting into her passport. And if you look closely in the passport, every square here had a name of a different team. So the sales team, the customer experience team, the people ops team. And every time you were in a breakout room and you would switch around in the breakout rooms, you would stamp your passport with the stamp of that person's team. So the idea was talk to as many people as possible that are not in your team. And so we had, I think, 3 rounds of different breakout rooms. And Emilia, you can tell us more about how you filled this out at the top and what you did here. I'll follow you.
So you even got some, in order to learn a bit more about each other and the people you met, you got to add a little flag that represented where you're from. But since we're a remote company, there are a lot of people who are not located where they are from. So at this time, I was actually living in Argentina. So I got to show off my little Argentine flag here as well, beside the Swedish one. And this was kind of just a nice way of, meeting new people in the company and learn a bit more about each other as well.
Yeah, and the reason we're, for some people who may see this the first time, it may seem a bit overwhelming to be in Zoom and to be in Mural at the same time. But what we've realized over the years, especially Emilia and I have facilitated a lot of workshops and events and webinars, is you can be in a meeting and listen to people, but then when you're visually engaged with something else and adding sticky notes and putting your flag on your passport, whatever, you're actually able to multitask but be even more engaged and focused in what you're doing. So we've realized that it's much more engaging to have something like this, more playful, than to just have everybody in a Zoom room just looking at each other's faces.
Exactly, keep everyone busy.
Exactly. And this is another activity which is maybe, for some people, maybe one of their favorites, and for others, maybe less so. We created a series of escape rooms in Mural. So there was another activity during that 3-hour flight where we were going to land in different places. And when we were on this tropical island, we put people into breakout rooms with other people that they had never worked with before. Again, the idea here was to meet as many different people as possible, since we're all remote and we couldn't meet in person. And this was the first escape room of, I think there were 7 in total. And the idea here was that there was a clue at the bottom and you had to find the clue. And then once you found that clue and you found the right word, you had to put it in a URL. So these dashes represent the word that is missing, and that URL would open the next level of the escape room. So in this one, the clue says, oh no, it looks like you're at the wrong island. Choose the right boat to take your team to the next island. So maybe Emilia, you can show us how you would have approached this.
Yeah, so we would have to kind of drag the boat to uncover the kind of clues that were hidden behind it. So it was actually really hard. It was, sometimes you would get really frustrated together. Like, this is one of the hardest challenges I've been facing together with a team before. So you would kind of drag the boat to uncover the words that were hidden below, and then you just had to kind of figure out which one was the right one that would take you to the next link, to the next escape mural.
So every time you found a word under boat, you would essentially just try that word out in the URL and see if that worked. And I love the one at the top here. I think if you just move this one, it just says LOL.
Yeah, but even further away, there's this like little swim, what are they called? Like the inflated.
Right, there's like a inflatable unicorn. And so it was a fun mural. We found the pictures online, put them here. It does look like a lot of work, but essentially we just picked images. We didn't create these images. We just found images that were there and had to think more about the logistics of the game. We also had on the right here in the outline of the mural, there was information on to help people. So if you were lost and you did not know how to solve the puzzle in this escape room, we had a Slack channel called lost, and everybody could go in that channel and say, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't get out of this escape room. And it was hilarious because he had so many people trying to deceive other teams and giving them the wrong clues. That was one of my favorite parts. And I want you to also show what was happening behind the scenes. So as I mentioned earlier, we were a group of volunteers who created this event in a very short time. By the way, we only had about 10 days, so less than 2 weeks to put all of this together and to ship all the props and everything, because we wanted to make this announcement about the funding. And so backstage, there was this mural that is, as you can see, it's much more plain. It's not meant to be pretty because this was not external facing. But the idea here was that you could see, or what we had to do and say and keep in mind for the entire trip. So the trip started at the airport lounge, then we would board the plane, and then we were going into the snowy mountains and so forth, and keep traveling to all these destinations. And we wanted to help the people backstage understand how long this was going to take and who was going to be involved. So like the intro was going to be 5 minutes. When Mariano, our CEO, was going to speak, it was going to be 20 minutes. And then you would read this horizontally. And one person, for example, was in charge of playing sound effects, sharing those sounds on Zoom. So we had links here that would take you to, these like sound videos you can find on YouTube. It's like 6 hours of airport background sounds, or sound effects of, an airplane inside, or an airplane taking off. So that person had the links there. This was basically like a one mural with all the important information. We had the Zoom backgrounds that were needed. We had a recap kind of like, what is this part for? So the intro was to welcome participants, and then Mariano was going to make a special announcement. And then we had a script. You didn't have to read it word by word, but the idea was to help the people who did have to speak say what they had to say. And then you would have a row here for the kind of gifts and props that we were going to let people know that they could use. So this was super helpful. And then you can see we didn't maybe complete everything all the way through, but it did help us, at least for the beginning, because then after, the rest of it was very much organic, and we just needed the hostesses to say what we were doing next.
Especially for this like first introduction, kind of these activities where everyone participated, it was super important that everyone were aware what was happening next and what backgrounds to put on. After that, we had some workshops that were for smaller groups, and then they could kind of self-organize a bit. But this was really helpful just for everyone who was part of the production team to stay on track and know what everyone doing, because it wasn't just Laïla throwing out this event. It was a whole group of people who helped with the presenting, with the broadcasting, with the sound effects. So thankfully, it was definitely a team effort.
It's always a team effort. I mean, there's maybe a person kind of leading it, but it's definitely team effort. So if you're planning to do an event like this, it's 3 hours long, but we had maybe 15 volunteers. It definitely helps to have a bit of quite a few preparation sessions before and rehearsals. And at the end, we got feedback of people saying that they actually felt like they were on a journey. It felt pretty real, and especially the time during the lockdown when we couldn't travel, it was like a breath of fresh air. And I wanted to move on to the other retreat we did. So this was about 6 months later. We had also grown quite a lot. We were now about 450, so almost double the size compared to last retreat. And then the first retreat we did was 3 hours long, and this one was 3 days long. So the reason we wanted to do this retreat, aside from the fact that we always want to meet and find fun ways to get to know each other, was also because we knew that our company had grown so much and so many new people had joined that the CEO described this as a rebirth, so a renaissance of the whole company, and we were no longer the company we used to be. So we had to kind of redefine who we were and find ourselves. And we built a website especially for this event that people with a Mural email address could join. So we shared the website ahead of time. And as soon as you signed in, you would see your ticket, you had a video explaining the event and a few instructions. But what I want to show you here, for example, is the maze. So as a theme for this retreat, I said it was a rebirth, but also we were going to go on another type of journey. And we decided to focus on a labyrinth or a maze because we were all going to be able to pick activities, which activities we wanted to do when. So the previous retreat was we're all together sitting in the same airplane. We're going to do the same activities all at the same time. Now, this retreat was much longer during each day. So we had people in different time zones. So the idea was you could wake up and go into the maze by yourself on an individual journey. And sometimes you would bump into people and sometimes you wouldn't. But whatever happened in the maze, you would come out transformed, because the maze is a kind of place where you go in and reflect and come across many things. So it was a symbol for our retreat, and we wanted people to have different experiences, not just learning, but also reflecting on themselves and the company. And if you zoomed in, you would find this maze was purely for informational purposes. It wasn't actually where the event was taking place, but you would see different volunteers here, for example, or you had parts of the maze that would open every day. That you'd find something new, so it would kind of bring people back because you were creating this sensation of like, oh, there's a secret in the maze that's going to be revealed on day 2 or on day 3. So you really could explore this maze. And what you're seeing here is a mural that is embedded in our website, which is a really cool feature that we have. And then the rest of the website had, for example, the schedule of all the events during the 3 days. And the crazy part here, so you can see these events, which are color-coded based on different things that we were doing, they would start, so in my time zones, they would start at 2 in the afternoon, and then they would continue, and you could pick which activity to go to. So at the same time, so for example, at 10 p.m., you would have all these activities going on. And some people really had FOMO because they wanted to be in so many. I don't know, Emilia, if you remember that.
So much to choose from. It was really, sometimes there were also several sessions at the same time, and you would really have to kind of like choose which one you would go to. But it was also really cool how all the sessions were, most of these sessions were organized by people who work at Mural. So it was also a great way to get to know each other and get to know some special skills that people possess as well.
Exactly. And speaking of skills, I'm just showing one example of the many, as you've just seen in our schedule. We had one Muralista do a cocktail event. So some sessions we were all using Mural intensely, and some we were more just interacting, engaging with each other. So in Colo's cocktail, actually there were no murals involved at the time, but I'm just zooming into here the screenshot. He had set himself up with all the ingredients he needed to make cocktails. So he was going to invent on the spot 3 cocktails. And then he had his girlfriend there. You can't see her, she was sitting on the side. She also works at Mural. And so she would try each cocktail. And at the end, so while he was making the cocktails in Zoom, he would say, who wants to suggest a name for this cocktail? So I remember giving this very long name, Sticky Dolce Vita à la crème africaine. And then we had Good Old Real Times and Sticky. And then after the cocktail class or cocktail session was over, he had taken photographs of each one, put it in a mural, and shared the ingredients. So this is a very, very simple way also of using Mural for an event. It doesn't mean you have to use it in that very moment, but you can share it as a follow-up to let people know this is what we did. And then we also had a mural where we were collecting memories during this 3-day retreat. So this mural was initially blank when we started. We just had some areas named according to the different activities that were happening. So we had like different themes here. You can see on the right: Unleash Imagination, Power of Perceptions. These were 3 workshops, and Magic of Teams. Those were 3 types of workshops that people could do. And then we had a lot of entertainment sessions. So there was curious entertainment. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So some sessions actually invited people to go on a serendipity walk outside and just be on Zoom and take photos of what you were seeing. So these were photos from different people around the world taking photos of what they were seeing. We had lots and lots of magic tricks and magicians and cabaret performers and mentalism and all kinds of tarot card reading as well. And so this was a space where we would collect memories of the event asynchronously, so anybody could come at any time. And in the middle, we also had a Spotify playlist that you could go and listen to. Emilia, did you remember adding things here or how you use this?
Yeah, I think I added some photos somewhere. I don't remember where, but it's cool because it becomes kind of like a scrapbook where you can see what other people's experience were. We also use this a lot just when we watch talks together or when we do courses as a way to kind of record our insights and learnings to be able to share with others. So this is also a great way to kind of create something together that you can look back at together afterwards and remember the fun times you had.
Even now it's bringing back a lot of memories.
Yeah.
And there's like screenshots of Mural, screenshots of Zoom, and then there are people's comments as well. So that was really fun. And after the retreat, we had an all hands meeting. So it's a meeting where we have everybody at the company coming together on Zoom. We do it usually every 2 weeks at Mural. And we had another session where we kind of wrapped up and did a little bit of reflecting around what we learned at that event. So at the retreat, what did we learn about ourselves, each other, Mural, and what are you most proud of? And so we called this our legacy Mural. And it was great because this one we did synchronously all together. So you just can imagine like 400 people or more in this mural, adding, for example, never dance off against me unless you want to lose. And here is a picture to prove how Felix and I would do these dance battles all dressed up. But you can see people, had reminders for themselves of like, one thing I learned is I need to breathe more. One thing I learned is that we have a lot of really great musicians. So Emilia, I'm sure that you had some learnings as well.
Yeah, I think like just seeing all the different skill sets we have at Mural, there were several people doing drawing classes or yoga classes. You found people. And I think that what was kind of like one of the things that this event was really good at recreating that usually happens in person, this kind of like spontaneous kind of interactions you have with people when you meet and talk in a room where you learn that, oh, this person likes yoga too, or this person is also interested in cooking. And we have this interest in common of drawing and having these like small groups and workshops really enabled those kind of connections and exchanges to happen, which was really cool.
Yeah. And
also the VR party, which sounds really weird and awkward, but it was actually kind of fun just to walk around and connect with people. And it almost feels like you're at like a high school party. Yeah. It was like something we did like at the end of the event, just for a short time after the all hands, I think. But that was also kind of an interesting way to bring something new to this and have people.
Yeah, and we use other platforms. We didn't just use Zoom and Mural. We invested in trying out some like 3D worlds, virtual worlds where you can build your own avatar and walk around. So we were using Verbella, we used Meebo, we used another one, which right now I think, I don't know if it's called Gather or something, I can't remember right now, but we were definitely using other platforms as well and experimenting a lot. And I'm reminding of this because I'm seeing, sticky notes of our experimentation culture. So I know that seeing this from the outside, it seems like, oh my goodness, it was a lot of work. And it was, it was a team of 15 people to put this together on top of like 25 expert facilitators and magicians and performers and all kinds of people and 35 internal volunteers. So it was a big group of people, but we took this very much as an experiment and learning by doing. And, for example, some people maybe didn't show up at a session as we had expected. And that was okay. That was all part of this, this culture of trying new things.
And I think that's also what you can kind of use these events for and how it becomes kind of a good complement when you can't meet in person. You can experiment and try out new things to interact with each other digitally and virtually. And some of these things hopefully stick afterwards as well. So what was some of the feedback you got after the event? What were the reactions we got from the teams?
Well, a lot of the reactions are what we see here. I think people were really excited. Some people mentioned how it reconnected them. They reconnected with their inner child. This was also a very family-friendly event. Again, this was during another lockdown. So we made it intentional to have activities where people could bring their partners or could bring their children to Zoom in their own homes, of course, but be able to witness and be a part of these activities. So that feedback was, the feedback around that was, was very appreciated, that we thought in that way and tried to also make it very flexible for people to join whenever they wanted, compared to the first retreat where they had to be in this one session with everyone for 3 hours. In this event, you could join as much or as little as you wanted. So that really suited different schedules. Some people aren't able to be online as much, and some people really can do that. And it was kind of accommodating for different kinds of personalities. Maybe some sessions were more for introverted people and others for more extroverted. And that's something we consider even when we meet in person. But the fact that we did that also online, it really meant a lot to people. We also had some feedback that, was more constructive. For example, people said there were too many sessions. I had this fear of missing out on other things, and I wish that there maybe wasn't so much choice. And that really shows that you really can't accommodate for everyone, especially as a company keeps growing. You take feedback from the first event, you try to do it better the second time, or some people also said that maybe the swag could have been a bit more sustainable. And, that's just all a learning experience for us to think about this differently and continue iterating.
What were some of the other kind of learnings you brought with you from this event? What would you do different next time? What else would you like to try?
Wow, that's a good question. I think my personal learning was that we have a great team of very open-minded people who are willing to immerse themselves in something and play along with it. And that's something that's really hard. Like even when I think of the airplane one, I was thinking, okay, we, the volunteers, are going to role play and we have our scripts, and, I'm going to be a pilot and she's going to be a flight attendant. And will people play along or not? Because if they don't, of course, the magic of the experience is kind of gone. And I learned that a lot of people will play along with it, at least at Mural. But it also depends a lot on the facilitators you have and what kind of atmosphere they create. And so if you just kind of, try to make it real, but say, hey, this is also a game and we're all here to have fun, people will do that. And so I think next time I would experiment probably with a completely different theme, but keep in mind that people can go along with it if you really try to create this immersive experience. And there's a lot of other learnings that are more logistical when it comes to, for example, shipping things around the world. For the first one, we only had 2 weeks to prepare that or less. And I was manually going into Amazon, sending things around the world. And I spent, I think, I don't know how many hours on Amazon, but almost like 40 hours or something. Just like,
oh my God, I had no idea that part of the planning took so much time. Like overall, how much time should people plan to put together an event like that? And what type of team do you need?
Yeah, it depends how many people you're doing this for. So the first time we did it for like around 250, the second time was 450. So the first time we took only 2 weeks to prepare, but I would definitely recommend at least a month. 2 weeks is really stressful. Even a month is stressful, but it's doable. The second retreat, we planned in a month and a half, but I think it could have benefited even from 2 months. So at least a month, I would say, to also understand who you want to work with. And for the second retreat, the Renaissance one, we worked with a company called Academy. They're based in the UK, but they have a network of facilitators all over the world, and they're great. And they do a lot of team building activities using magic as like an ingredient to bring people together.
And as an organizer, how do you measure success of an event like this? What are some of the things you're tracking?
I mean, some of the obvious ones are, this kind of feedback that we're looking at right here on the screen, and the initial impact, and also the ongoing feedback that you're seing. So we're using Slack internally. So it helped to have also, we had a few Slack channels that were meant just for people to come to us and say, hey, I can't get into this event, or I can't use the website properly. So if you're getting, we realized for the second retreat, on the first day, we had so much of that kind of feedback where it was like, the like support, like they needed help. But by the third day, we had almost none. So that was, one measurement of success was, okay, our tickets, so to speak, are reducing. And we also send out a survey at the end of the event or after the event to ask people to rate the event on the survey and give us some more feedback. And then we also see, how often do people bring this up later, 2 months later or 6 months later, do people still talk about it? How has it impacted their teams, and are there workshops or things they did here that then they can continue later on?
Cool. And final question, what I know everyone will always ask about, where can we find the links to these murals if we want to check them out or use them on our own?
Right. So I have shared a lot of murals today. And so my first thing to say would be, if you want to see a specific mural here, you can reach out to us, and I'll let you know if we can give you access to something specific. Some things might have some confidential information that I can't share, but otherwise, as I shared earlier, there are 2 links here where you can deep dive into the actual event. So the first one, as I said, is a video on YouTube, interviews with various employees, but it's not just interviews. It's a really lovely video that gives you kind of the vibe of the retreat. And the second link here is a blog post. It's also like a case study that explains how you can plan your own world tour retreat. So I hope that answers all the questions. Thank you so much. And hopefully everybody's more prepared to do a virtual event that people actually want to attend.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to the next one. See what topic and what destination will go.